The leader of the far-right AfD in Thuringia calls his party's success in Sunday's state elections a historic victory.
The bodies of 6 hostages were recovered by Israeli forces, with the military spokesperson claiming they'd been killed just before they could be rescued. The Pope is heading on his longest papal tour ever as he heads to Asia to rally the region's growing Catholic community.
The leader of the far-right Alternative for Germany in Thuringia, Björn Höcke, has called his party's success in Sunday's state elections a historic victory. It's the first time since World War II that a far-right party appears set to enter a state parliament, with the AfD polling at over 32% of the vote.
Die Altparteien sollten sich erstmal in Demut üben. Sie sollten jetzt erstmal dieses Votum des Thüringer Souveräns wahrnehmen. Das ist ja das, was die Menschen mittlerweile auf die Palme bringt. Wir haben Umfragen, die belegen, dass 88% der Thüringer Demokratieunterstützer sind, aber 45% sind nur noch mit dem Zustand der Demokratie zufrieden.
The Conservative Christian Democratic Union has fallen to second place in Thuringia, but is slightly ahead in the polls in neighbouring Saxony. The CDU's Minister-President for the state, Michael Kretschmer, said his party was ready to govern.
Wir waren der Fels in der Brandung. Wir haben diese Koalition zusammengehalten, diese Regierung zusammengehalten. Wir haben Stabilität in dieses Land gebracht. Und wir stehen bereit, auch mit diesem Wahlergebnis wieder Verantwortung zu übernehmen.
The Greens, one of the 3 parties that makes up Germany's ruling coalition, performed poorly in both states. The party's leader in the German parliament said he was more disappointed about the strong showing of the AfD than he was about the poor polling for his own party.
Mein Schmerz heute Abend randständig verglichen mit der Tatsache, dass wir hier eine tiefe Zäsur haben und eine offen rechtsextreme Partei das erste Mal seit 1949 stärkste Kraft geworden ist in einem Landtag. Und das macht vielen Leuten ganz große Sorgen und Ängste.
Many view these results as a barometer of public sentiment for the current government ahead of next year's national elections. But the inconclusive results in both federal regions means forming a government will be very difficult. It's extremely unlikely that any other party will agree to put AfD in power by joining it in a coalition. The CDU's National General Secretary Carsten Linnemann said his party will stick to its long-standing refusal to work with the far-right group.
Russia has launched a barrage of drones, cruise, and ballistic missiles at Kyiv Monday morning. Residents were sent into bomb shelters as several explosions rocked the city. One person was injured from falling debris, according to Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. The head of Kyiv City Military Administration said over 10 cruise missiles, about 10 ballistic missiles, and a drone fired at the Ukrainian capital and its suburbs were destroyed by Ukraine's air defenses. In the Russian city of Belgorod, a Ukrainian shelling reportedly damaged a kindergarten, a commercial facility, several residential buildings, and cars, said Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov. Just hours earlier, a strike in the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv damaged a gas pipe and wounded dozens. Local firefighters tried to quench flames from leaking gas. This comes a day after Russia's military reported 158 Ukrainian drones targeted multiple Russian regions in one of the biggest attacks of the war.
The bodies of 6 hostages were recovered by the Israeli military during an operation in the Gaza Strip, as protests calling for a ceasefire continue. All 6 of the hostages were killed just before Israeli forces could rescue them, according to an Israeli military spokesperson. The bodies were recovered from a tunnel in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, around a kilometre from where another hostage was rescued alive last week. Their recovery sparked further protests against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Families of hostages, as well as much of the Israeli public, blame him for failing to strike a deal with Hamas to end the ongoing war and bring the hostages back alive. Netanyahu says the killings prove that Hamas does not want the ceasefire deal. Negotiations have dragged on for months.
The Gotthard-based tunnel, the main rail connection between Switzerland and Italy, reopens on Monday, more than a year after an accident forced its closure. It happened on August the 10th last year when a Swiss Federal Railways freight train derailed due to a broken wheel. The derailment caused the train to crash into the gate separating the western and eastern tunnels, causing severe damage. An investigation after the crash revealed that hairline fractures in a wagon wheel caused the accident when pieces came away, causing the carriage to jump the tracks. And the cleanup operation was also problematic.
Allein die Bergung des Unfallzuges und die Räumung der Unfallstelle hat mehrere Wochen in Anspruch genommen. Anschließend mussten sämtliche Materialien in diesen Tunnel gebracht werden. Es herrschen Temperaturen von fast 40 Grad im Gotthard-Basistunnel. Zum Schutz der Arbeitenden mussten Vorkehrungen getroffen werden.
SBB estimated last year that repairing the damage would cost in the region of €135 million, but the company said this week that the final price tag was €159 million. Taking almost 17 years to complete after decades of planning, the Gotthard Base Tunnel is the longest railway tunnel in the world, stretching 57 kilometers under the Swiss Alps. It's an essential link between Switzerland's German and Italian-speaking cantons and cost €10 billion to construct.
The Pope is beginning his longest, furthest, and most challenging trip ever to Asia. Pope Francis will be visiting Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, East Timor, and Singapore during his 11-day trip. Traveling tens of thousands of kilometers, the journey will far surpass any of his previous trips, being one of the longest papal tours ever.
Inizierò un viaggio apostolico in alcuni paesi di Asia. Per favore, pregate per il frutto di questo viaggio.
During his trip, the Pope will deliver 16 speeches and hold several giant masses as he seeks to rally the region's growing Catholic community. While attempting to bolster ties with local Catholics, the Pope also aims to bridge religious divides in a majority Muslim country like Indonesia during a visit to an iconic mosque. Francis also faces challenges like addressing growing discrimination amongst religious minorities in Indonesia and a sexual abuse scandal in East Timor. The Pope is expected to address some of the key issues that have marked his tenure as head of the Catholic Church, including the environment. A commemoration marking the 85th anniversary of the outbreak of World War II took place in the northern Polish city of Gdansk. Veterans, troops and delegations from across Poland participated in the event alongside Polish politicians at the location where the war was triggered decades ago. Nearly 6 million Poles died in the conflict, which killed more than 50 million people overall. Poland's current pro-EU government, led by Prime Minister Donald Tusk, has urged Germany to provide financial compensation over losses the country sustained at the hands of Nazi troops. According to Polish media, discussions between the two countries on financial compensation to living victims are underway, with Poland estimating up to 70,000 people would be eligible. Speaking at the ceremony, Tusk said the lessons of the World War were not an abstraction and drew parallels with the ongoing war in neighbouring Ukraine.
Greek authorities have announced a series of measures to support local businesses after more than 100 tons of dead fish were carried by floodwater into the central port of Volos. Subsidies will be provided for businesses who have lost money, and tax and insurance payments will be suspended. The local government will also look into ways to promote tourism in the region. The dead freshwater fish filled both Volos Bay and nearby rivers on Tuesday after they were displaced from their normal habitats by flooding last year. Experts say a net wasn't placed at the mouth of the river leading into Volos, and the fish died when they came into contact with seawater. The mayor of Volos accused the regional authority of acting too slowly and warned the rotting fish could cause an environmental disaster. The city's Chamber of Commerce said it was taking legal action to seek damages after commercial activity in the popular tourist destination dropped by an estimated 80%. The Polish government has announced new guidelines aimed at facilitating safe access to abortion. The rules published by the Health Ministry say that a recommendation by one specialist doctor is enough for a woman to obtain a legal abortion in hospital. The doctor performing the procedure will not be liable for prosecution. Previously, abortion was only possible in the case of a pregnancy that was the result of sexual abuse or in a situation of extreme danger to the pregnant woman's health. Those regulations led to a number of deaths across the country after doctors refused to perform an abortion for fear of being punished. Doctors or persons who helped to procure an abortion faced up to 3 years in prison. The new guidelines say hospitals that refuse to perform an abortion on a woman with a medical referral could be fined up to €115,000 or lose their National Health Fund contract. Students in Greece will be required to keep their mobile phones in their school bags at all times during lessons when the new academic year starts in September. The new regulations were announced on Saturday by Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis.
Τα επιστημονικά δεδομένα πια για το πώς η χρήση του κινητού κατά τη διάρκεια της ημέρας στο σχολείο επηρεάζει την ίδια τη μαθησιακή διαδικασία είναι καταλυτικά, από την διάσπαση προσοχής μέχρι άλλα σημαντικά ζητήματα. Είναι σαφές ότι το κινητό δεν έχει θέση στο σχολείο την ώρα της ημέρας.
Under the new rules, pupils who don't comply will be excluded from school for 1 day. In the case of a repeat offence, teachers have the power to remove pupils from lessons for several days. And anyone filming their classmates or their teachers without permission could face expulsion from school.